But I want to run a real quick theory by you. Do you think, this is just a personal belief that I have, part of the fault in our stars is this thing that leads us to resent that which we depend upon? It's that feeling you have when traffic is stopped because construction workers are repaving. And when you drive by them, it's all you can do not to shake your fist at them. You're slowing me down. You're in my way, right? You resent the very progress that's happening. We're so angry because, in my view, deep down, we have become so reliant on that very part of the workforce that we demean and hold in contempt. I think that has bled over into our reliance on abundant, affordable, and reliable energy. We hate it because we need it.
I mean, I think that the energy crisis is going to be very terrible, but also have a really positive impact in making people feel more grateful for the energy. As Michael Caine says in Batman, some people, referring to the Joker, some people just want to watch the whole world burn. I do think that is a very small minority of people, and that the people that want to see the whole world burn are manipulating the folks who are easy to guilt trip about historical injustices and inequalities, and easy to make angry when they see an out-of-context video of police behaving badly, and are easy to make afraid. But yes, you're speaking to something that I've been obsessed with, which is Greta Thunberg says, we have to stop emissions right away. And then people go, okay, well then, so obviously you're in favor of continuing the operation of nuclear plants. Nope, I'm against nuclear. Well, because if you're against nuclear and you shut the nuclear plants down, guess what happens? All the emissions go up. These are folks, they don't even have the conversation. They don't even argue with you. They don't, it's not like they're out there being like, yeah, Michael, I want to have a debate with you about nuclear. It's like talking to, it's like if you're a parent, a good parent goes, honey, you can have peanut butter and jelly or a mac and cheese. And then when your kid goes, I don't want either of those, the good parent says, okay, you don't have to eat. Parents that I think are missing the point will say, oh, okay, well, what else can I make you? And there's a kind of like it's the parent's job to deal with this, to become unreasonable. And I think that's how the society has responded to people that are demanding an immediate end to carbon emissions without using nuclear gas, or people that are saying we have to shut the whole university down, because somebody got offended at something. We're allowing the civilization to be undermined by ingrateful, coddled children. And the adults in the society
How dare you?
Need to put our foot down.
How dare you? How dare you?
Yes.
Look, your
this
metaphor...
is one of the most privileged children that's ever existed on Earth. She's from a wealthy family, and she's here lecturing United Nations diplomats from sub-Saharan Africa. How dare you? I mean, how dare you? I mean,
but
it's like, what do you...
Look, your metaphor is perfect, but it's not a metaphor, because Greta is a literal and actual child. And for that reason, I don't blame her for anything that she's ever said. The people I blame are the UN. The people I blame are the adults who all of a sudden elevate the thoughts of a child as if to say, look, from the mouths of babes, finally, we have a wellspring of truth that we can point to and say, well, there it is. Oh, my God, she's a child. And yet, so many people have assigned so much import to what she said. And it goes to my theory in some weird way that why do we wind up resenting the things we rely on? And conversely, why do we wind up assigning so much credibility and the benefit of so much doubt to a child?
Yeah.
I don't know, but we do.
Well, it's very interesting. I think it's worth unpacking a little bit. The main climate catastrophist went from Al Gore, who was an Old Testament preacher figure, to a child who's kind of a Joan of Arc figure, but really just a spoiled child. And so what does it say about the cradle of civilization, the cradle of Western civilization, that it wants to take orders from a coddled child? Well, it tells you that you're dealing with a society in decline. You're dealing with a decadent society. You're dealing with a society that rejects taking responsibility for its actions, that actually, in its narcissism, imagines itself to be like a child. I mean, there's a lot of this bad 60s stuff in this. There's some good stuff in that. You know, there's so much of the stuff in the 60s that was sort of like, be like a child. You know, there's like the Buddhism and the like, you know, you have to let go. And there's some that's very nice, and there's a role for that. But not when you're doing economic and energy policy, not when you're doing food policy. At that point, it becomes nihilism. It becomes the destruction of civilization in a kind of naked will to power without regard for the consequences of your behavior. I mean, I think the other thing that comes up for me is that it's a little bit like, you know, when gods in the older pagan myths, when gods behave badly, you know, you think of gods, the Greek gods, when they behave badly and they become kind of petulant and they become unconcerned about their impact, and a lot of people get hurt. You know, there's like whatever, tsunamis, and, you know, gods are just throwing a temper tantrum. And there's some sense in which these are very powerful people who are unhappy. You know, think of the stereotypical kind of starlet throwing a temper tantrum in her trailer because somebody didn't make her coffee right, or
Yes.
It's a kind of, no, I want there to be no negative consequences to anything that helps me to be powerful and rich. It's petulant, and so anyway, you can overanalyze it too. But I think that we're coming to the end of it, and that the winter, the proverbial winter that's coming, is going to have a wake-up call. I mean, it already is. We see that the Swedish, and the Italians have now elected right-wing governments whose candidates campaigned against wokeism. They use that word, by the way. They use the English word wokeism. I asked my Swedish friends to tell me what happened during the election, because I was just in Sweden last year. I actually met the person that will become prime minister, very pro-nuclear people. And my Swedish friends were like, well, you know, the public just got sick of being told that they were all racists and destroying the climate. And I was like, wait, we're talking about Sweden, right? Like, what? And they were like, yeah, Sweden. I was like, but that sounds exactly like what's going on in the United States. And so clearly the backlash is underway.